When my son Avery was not yet 2 years old, he fell in love with the moon. It was a beautiful love affair that started one summer night when he awoke inconsolable at 3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it was teething, maybe something was troubling his stomach, but it was beyond my powers to soothe him. So my husband Jamie and I finally bundled all three of us up and we just went outside. It was a full moon, the perfect mysterious moonlit night, with just enough cloud cover that the moon was vanishing and reappearing at a steady pace. My son was awestruck. After an hour, he still didn't want to go inside. This was such a special and such a reassuring experience. At a time when I fear for his attention span and how it is being affected by screens where images move at a mile a minute. The three of us just calmly outside in the cool of a summer night, watching the clouds pass over the moon. Then, for days afterward, he ordered me to produce the moon at regular intervals. Moon, mummy, moon now, Avery would say. And then more impatiently, as if he was saying, okay, mummy, it's not funny anymore. It's time for you to make the moon appear. I explained to him patiently, again and again, that the moon hides during the day. It only comes out at night. Sometimes we can't even see it because it's hiding behind the clouds. Finally, it seemed like he understood. But then one morning, shortly after, while walking him to daycare, he said, Moon, moon. And he was right. There was a beautiful moon right there in the middle of a blue sky. We saw the moon several mornings in a row. And he resumed his requests for me to produce the moon. I thought, how am I supposed to explain how this works to a 2-year-old? How can I explain that affecting the moon is totally beyond the scope of my limited human powers? In the years since Avery first noticed the moon, I have had a crash course in basic astronomy. His curiosity about the moon turned into a fascination with the 8 primary planets, the rocky planets and the gas giants and the ice giants, and then with the dwarf planets, of which there are 5, Pluto among them now, and then with the exoplanets, and then with the concept of a galaxy. Then with all the galaxies that exist in the universe, which the New Horizons space probe suggests is roughly 200 billion. I was totally unaware of this number and quite shocked by it. I'll confess I didn't really understand that the stars we see in the sky are uncomprehendingly far away. The nearest one being our sun at 147 million kilometers away, and the next Alpha Centauri at 40 trillion kilometers away. Part of our experience of wonder is bound up in this, that we as humans are small in the grand scheme of things and not really in control. And part of my experience of being a Unitarian Universalist is this, that we are the faith that uniquely embraces what science tells us about the human place in the cosmic story and matches that understanding with the profound spiritual qualities of reverence, awe, and wonder. Carl Sagan said, a religion that stressed the magnificence of the universe as revealed by modern science might be able to draw forth reserves of reverence and awe hardly tapped by the conventional faiths. Sooner or later, such a religion will emerge. When I first read this quote, I asked myself, how can we be this religion? The last 5 years, being a parent of 2 young kids has deepened my experience of wonder, being exposed more to the science of space and also the science of oceans, another one of Avery's fascinations. I've also learned quite a lot more about how the human body works, so I can explain to Avery, for example, exactly how food passes through the body and exits. A common interest uniting possibly all 6-year-olds. And being a UU seminarian, called upon to write homilies from time to time, has also been another way that I have cultivated my sense of wonder. There's a saying that Christian ministers should preach with the newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other. As a UU minister in formation, I try to preach to the events of the day and to our 8 principles using our 6 official sources, and more with direct reference to what I like to think of as the book of the universe. The vast array of human knowledge that demonstrates both how incredibly intelligent we are and also how small and insignificant and ignorant we are. The book of the universe has us gravitating towards the outer reaches of human knowledge in the form of disciplines like neuroscience and astrophysics, and then pairing that with our earth-centered traditions that encourage us to heed what the natural world is calling us to pay attention to in any given moment. Like tonight, that blueberry, salmon, deer antler moon. In approaching our tradition this way, I'm joining many others who practice what they call religious or reverential naturalism, a worldview that combines many elements of secular humanism with a strong environmental ethic and an ecological mindset. These result in a greater spiritual depth and a language of reverence. This kind of spirituality is not opposed to science. Rather, science and reverential naturalism are deeply interconnected and complementary ways of seeing the world and of being fully present to it. What happens to us when we stop, when we truly experience the richness of the natural world? First, our senses become fully engaged. So, sensory experience is that aspect of being alive that we share with all of our animal kin. And when we experience nature, our senses are operating at greater capacity. This is a primal part of visceral experience, and it reminds us of how glorious it is to have a body, to be more than gray matter, more than just the neurons in our brains, of being creatures who are so capable of delight. But then as humans, our minds are engaged as well. We might gasp in awe, not just at an image of Alpha Centauri, but at knowing how far away it is and how miraculous it is that we've managed to photograph it. When we experience this kind of awe, we recognize and remind ourselves of truths about the universe that put humans in their proper place with respect to nature. Scientists who study awe call this self-diminishment, feeling small before something vast. And more research demonstrates just how powerful and how valuable this experience is. According to Dr. Summer Allen with the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, experiencing awe makes people more kind and generous. Awe makes us want to engage with others more. It makes us feel more connected. People who experience awe more often are said to be more humble by their friends. Awe and wonder also have effects on individual well-being. Awe was the emotion most likely to be linked to lowering levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines, the proteins that are connected to heart disease, to diabetes, to depression. Awe and humility also connect reverence for nature back to the scientific method. At its best, the scientific method is characterized by humility, by constantly trying to prove yourself wrong rather than prove yourself right. Unlike theologians, scientists are taught to disprove their hypotheses. This effort to overcome our biases, the tendency that we humans have to see the world only in line with our pre-existing values and beliefs, that's key to our learning and to our growth. To quote David Bambaugh, through evolutionary science, we have learned that the holy did not incarnate in one single place, but that the universe is instead continually incarnating itself in microbes and maples. in hummingbirds and human beings. As Robin Wall Kimmerer says in her incredible book, Braiding Sweetgrass, science can be a way of forming intimacy and respect with other species that is rivaled only by the observations of traditional knowledge holders. Science can be a path to kinship. The exact kind of kinship that is urgently needed to reverse the historic losses in the natural world that we humans are causing. This kind of reverence for nature is important because of the preciousness of humility in our polarized world. So I want to contrast that big show of evolutionary biology and astrophysics with the other big show taking place before our eyes right now. The chaos and destruction being wrought by big egos like Elon Musk, Vladimir Putin, and of course, Donald Trump. These are stories not of humility, but of hubris. Stories of trying to be the master of the universe instead of its reverential observer. How many of the great tragedies of this contemporary era are caused by this tragic flaw? From the war in Ukraine to the rise of hate speech on platforms like Twitter, to the erosion of democracy and the rise of fascism, to the endless fossil fuel extraction that is driving the climate crisis. As Reverend William R. Murray says, the human ability to think critically and constructively has made possible our many technological advances. But it is only reverence, understood as feelings of respect and awe, that can save us from the hubris that would destroy all the good we have accomplished. Reverence begins in a deep understanding of human limitations. Reverence is about wonder, about awe. It's about self-diminishment, feeling small and humble and grateful. Looking at that full moon and using it to engage all of your senses, as well as your cognitive capacity for learning and growth. Shortly before leaving our Toronto apartment, in the only home he had ever known, my son and I were sitting by the window as a yellow leaf floated by. Caught in an updraft, it danced and swirled around our fifth-story window. If he hadn't been there, I might not have noticed. But through his eyes, I watched, riveted, until that brief ballet ended. Immediately came the cry, "More, Mummy, more." And I said, "I know, Avery. I would like more too." What he is still learning is that part of the beauty of nature is that we can't just demand more and get it. I might be able to provide my son with more Cheerios and more cartoons, but I cannot provide more moonlight. None of us can. We have to live with what nature provides, and as human beings, that unites us. What I'm praying for is the larger cultural shift to reverence and humility that this recognition brings about. And I'm praying for our tradition to be a part of that shift.